Hey everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. Swans, To Be Kind, 2014 album. You've seen the title of this video, you know what it's about. It's been 5 years since this record came out. And when it initially dropped, I gave it a glowing review, a 10 out of 10, and it currently stands today as one of the few albums that I have given such a score. I thought I would revisit with and talk about this album, given that from my understanding, Swans have been coming to the conclusion of the recording sessions and assembly of their newest full-length album. When it is out, it will be a good idea to go back and revisit pivotal albums like To Be Kind. So this album, I've said it before and I will say it again, as I did in my original review, from what I can recall, that this is an immense moment, a key moment for experimental rock, for what you may even call post-rock, for linear forms of rock music, for more meditative forms of rock music. Swans embody, maybe not the final, because I don't think rock music is going away or disappearing, but as far as the traditional elements of the genre go, and holding true to those traditional elements without breaking them down or giving them up in such a way where you've turned rock music into something else. To me, what Swans have done on this record and what they have been doing with their recent releases generally, to me sounds like the ultimate evolution for the genre. Because past this, I truly cannot imagine a point at which you're taking the sound and turning it bigger, louder, more menacing, more lengthy, more progressive in a lot of respects. To me, this album is not just a casual, fun music listening session. It is an experience. It is an explosive experience. It is, in a way, sort of like being on another mental plane, which I know sounds really pretentious and stupid and dumb, and maybe to categorize it that way, it kind of is, but to me, this record and what Swans have embodied on not only this, but even the follow-up to this album, The Glowing Man in 2016, to me, this is the genre as close as you are going to get to creating a transcendental experience. Something that, in my view, very few rock bands have been able to capture in the same way Swans have been able to do so fantastically on this record, on The Seer, on The Glowing Man. Now, To Be Kind is my favorite of these three records. And not to take anything away from The Seer, there are some great ideas on it, not to take anything away from The Glowing Man, because I do think that it is a bit more of a cerebral experience. But I do prefer how cleanly assembled, how well orchestrated, and how explosive To Be Kind is. These moments like Oxygen, like Screenshot, like A Little God in My Hands, contrast really nicely with the longer and more ambient and more winding songs in the track list. There are elements of this album that really just drive the tension up so high. Mentally, I just feel like I'm about to burst. Like that's really kind of the magic of this record in my view. It is the grand instrumentation, the grand movements, the way everything is just so locked in and subtly moving and growing and building across multiple tracks here, and how it all manages to reach these incredible, impeccable, like amazingly large and panoramic and crushing climaxes. There are some instrumental bits of The Glowing Man that to my ears do sound a little bit bigger, but the animalistic and primal aggression that is consistently shown throughout many tracks on To Be Kind is sort of what puts the album a little bit over the line for me and makes it a musical experience that the reason I give this a 10 and have given other records a 10 is that as I listen through it, I can't imagine enjoying myself more than I am when I'm listening to this record. I can't imagine anything this album may present to make itself better. I feel like I'm at the limit, my current limit, my threshold of enjoyment here. One of the most important and amazing things about this record, and this is something I also enjoy about the music of Phil Elverum and a host of other artists as well, though they achieve this in a variety of different ways. But what I think this album does so well, and maybe better than a lot of those artists too, is that it successfully makes me or the listener feel like so tiny and so insignificant, because what you're listening to in terms of sound and scope, the size of the sound, the length of all of it in totality is just so massive, so huge, that even still to this day, I love this record, but I still feel like I'm wrapping my head around it in a lot of different respects and still unpeeling it. You know, there's still a lot that I think one could gain from this album in terms of the cryptic lyrics and what Michael Gira is singing about, the subtle little instrumental variations as each track progresses and falls and builds and explodes. There is so much to this album that you really just could be listening to it again and again and again and get something new out of it, potentially forever. And yeah, that's maybe another point I could make about this record. It does feel in a lot of respects like forever in a way, and in a good way, you know, in its vastness, in its width and its breadth. There's so much to this record that I still feel like I'm getting a grip of, and I'm going to be enjoying doing so, I think, for a very long time. And yeah, I think that's it. I think that's mostly what I want to say about this album. 5 years on, I feel like I am appreciating this album more. I'm enjoying this album more. It still feels pretty powerful to my ears, even in the wake of The Glowing Man, and most likely after what Swans are going to be doing with their next LP too. So one more time, just really loving this record still. 5 years later, I still think it's a banger. It's an experimental rock banger. And for anybody who has not tried this record yet, I implore you, give it a try. Give it a shot. Even if you're unfamiliar with this band, unfamiliar with the genre, because if you got some spare time on your hands and you really want to have a deep and maybe frightening experience, then give this thing a shot. Give this thing a try. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Swans, To Be Kind, Forever.